Hey guys, so this is just the video on how to get your scene all together, how to export the objects, and combine your files. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and drop our ground. Oops. So I'm going to come up to the square here. This is just a really quick way we can drop our ground with a couple walls. I'm going to click on the cube, blow it up to kind of the size you want your scene to be. And then I'm going to delete these faces. So I'm going to hold down my right click, go into face mode, and delete the three faces. And now we are inside the cube, so we need to reverse this surface. So I'm going to hold down right click, go into object mode, and go into mesh display and reverse. So now our normals are facing outwards towards our scene. Okay, so we have a bunch of our objects and a bunch of different scenes. Just going to go ahead and smush this around first. And I am going to go over to layer, create layer from selected, and rename this shell. Okay, so there's my shell for the wall, and now I can turn this to a reference so I'm not moving it around. Okay, so there's a couple things that you can do. You can have your objects up if your Maya is allowing you to have two scenes up at one time. The PCs do. The Macs were giving issues last year. But if you're able to have two scenes open, you should be able to do a Control C to copy and Control V, and it should drop down into your scene. If that is not happening, what we can do is if you have just this object in the scene, so I just want to bring this little pencil cup guy that I made, the best thing to do when transferring stuff over is to do the mesh combined. And then you can save your file and go into whichever one you had it as and just drop it in and it will pop into your file there. If you had a multiple objects in your scene, you could go ahead and select your little object that you have, go up to File, Export Selection, and then drop that export. And make sure that it is an OBJ export. And then I have my little hippo cup here. If we go ahead and click on this, the Macs might not have it, but you can view your little hippo cup in a little 3D viewer and change the lighting. But now we can go ahead and go into our scene and drag in the hippo cup. He's not colored now, so we'd want to do a mesh, separate, and recolor him. So those are just a few ways that you can bring your objects into your scene there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to start grabbing all of my objects. I want this hippo. I'm going to move them off to the side. I'm going to do a modify and center pivot. You will want to make sure that you are doing, we're going to go up to edit, delete by type history, modify and freeze transformations on all the objects that we're bringing in and out of our scenes. And then I'm going to start bringing over other stuff that I have made that I might want into my scene. So I'm going to want this lofted bed, maybe the shelving unit, this little mirror setup here, and a table setup. Another desk setup that I wanted a few objects from, and this little bean bag. And then I'm just going to start to rearrange these into my scene and get them to about the size that I would look appropriate. And again, because all of my objects are combined, I'm able to move them all. If your objects have different pivot points or different rotations, then they won't scale perfectly or how you would expect, and that can be a little frustrating. So make sure you just have them all combined. For instance, these ones look like they're not all combined, and if I was to scale them, they're not scaling all the same. They're not staying in their correct positions or the positions I originally had them in. So I'm just doing a mesh and combined. Now they're all one. Something looks like it went a little strange with my mirror from my last scene, but that's okay. And then I want to break this one apart because I've made this new desk bed. So I don't want this desk anymore. So I'm going to go to mesh and separate. And I'm going to recombine this chair and bring it over to my desk. Utilizing F to focus on my objects. This little trash can. Combine that. Some of the keys there. Need my laptop. My pivot point is way over here for my laptop, so I'm just going to do a modify and center pivot. this plant. I'm actually going to go put it on the shelf. So just move all of your objects around. I have some books and a cup. Do a mesh and combined with them. And I can get rid of my old desk. This little beanbag chair. Duplicate it. I'm gonna do a squish it up a little bit. It's not the exact same as the other one. Go. And then finally my cup. There's no pencils in it. So cool. I have my little setup, and I can start laying my lights in. So let's go ahead and lay a light in. You can do whatever light you want. I'm going to go into lights and just show you how to do an area light. So the light projects down, where that little pointy guy is there. I do a render view. Need to find the normals. Ah, there it is. In your attribute editor, go in and go ahead and uncheck normals. And now let's open this up. Ah, much better. So you will want to turn back down everything. it kind of was at. And now our render is very blurry. Okay. So we need to go into our render settings. So I'm going to go into Windows, Render Editor, Render Setup. Render settings, sorry about that. And we're going to go ahead and switch some of these. Okay, we want our image format to either be a TIFF, a PNG, or a JPEG. I'm going to go with PNG because it's lossless. TIFF is also lossless, but it has a very big file format. I want my camera to be perspective right now. We'll get into more cameras later. And then I'm going to move this around. So first I'm going to do my resolution at 300. I'm going to go into my width and do 2000. Oops. Sorry about that. I'm going to maintain width and height ratio and then to 2000. Go on Arnold and just render that out. Cool. Okay. And then I'm going to go into open Arnold render view. First I'm going to bump this down a little bit. The reason why we're bumping it down, back down again, is because it's going to take a long time to process. So we want to make sure that we get the image we want before we go ahead and hit that. And I'm just going to go into edges and pull out the edges of my shell here. Oops. Alright. Once you kind of have the image that you want, we're going to go back into that ratio and do a 2000 or 3000 even. First I'm going to close this. And resolution at 300, not 3000. I'm also going to go in here and bump up my cameras to 5. If yours shoots out a warning, you can disable abort on error. Just know that it can corrupt, so first, please save. Now I'm going to open up that Arnold renderer again. You can see I didn't perfectly align some of my objects. I definitely have some stuff floating around. You notice that Arnold, the render view is also acting very slow. That's because we have it at such a high volume. I'm gonna go back and just reassign my mirror. I don't exactly know what's going on with it actually, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. Anyway, so I have this render view. I might want to put another light underneath my bed. Um, this emission isn't fully capturing what I want, but I'm gonna go into just the normal renderer. Make sure that I am in this view. Go into the renderer, and we can go into window. And we are looking for like dragging. There it is. Show render tiles. If you guys ever played Dragon, you can kind of see, I like to call it the dragon going around, and it's going through and cleaning up the pixels. Please wait until this is done. Down at the corner, it will also say how far your render is. So you will need to wait until that is completed. But I hope this helped a little. Wait until your render is all done, then do a file and save image, and you should have a render good to go. Thanks.